Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
We have got a collection of stories today that perfectly captures the dual reality of what it means to be a Detroit Lions fan heading into 2026. On one hand, ESPN has looked at this roster and declared the Lions' weapons the best in the entire National Football League, which is a statement so bold and so validating that every Lions fan who spent decades watching this franchise operate as the punchline of the NFC North should take a moment to genuinely appreciate what has been built here. On the other hand, the secondary situation following the Terry and Arnold legal situation is a genuine organizational concern that requires real solutions rather than wishful thinking. And the free agent and trade options available to address it range from solid to speculative to the enticing but unlikely Denzel Ward scenario that would be wonderful if it happened and probably will not. And threaded through all of it is CBS Sports putting 6 Lions in their top 100, Isaiah Pacheco embracing his role as the perfect complement to Jahmyr Gibbs, and the honest acknowledgement that this offense could be the best in the league if the line holds up and stays healthy. Let us get into every piece of this right now. Start with the ESPN #1 weapons ranking because this is the validation that deserves its proper moment of appreciation before the analytical work begins. Moving from 7th in 2024 to 2nd in 2025 to 1st overall in 2026 is a trajectory that reflects the specific and deliberate organizational investment the Lions have made in building offensive weaponry around Jared Goff. And the roster that ESPN is looking at when they make this call is genuinely difficult to argue against. Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Isaac Tesla, Sam Laporta. That is a receiving and rushing group that simultaneously stresses every dimension of a defensive game plan in ways that most offenses can only threaten in one or two areas at a time. Gibbs creates problems in the run game, in the receiving game, in space, and on the perimeter. St. Brown is the most reliable and most efficient slot receiver in the NFC and has been for the past 3 seasons. Jameson Williams, when healthy and operating at full speed, is one of the most genuinely terrifying deep threats in the entire league. A player whose combination of top-end speed and improving route discipline creates matchup problems that no defensive coordinator has a clean answer for. Tesla is the emerging tight end threat that gives the offense a reliable seam option and a red zone weapon. Laporta is a legitimate starting caliber tight end at a position of genuine depth. And then there is Jared Goff distributing to all of those weapons, which is the piece that makes this whole offensive picture so remarkable when you consider where Goff was in his career before arriving in Detroit. He is 57th on the CBS Sports Top 100, which roughly reflects where the national evaluation of him lands when the conversation is not colored by a specific partisan rooting interest, and that placement is probably slightly low given what he has done over the past 3 seasons in this offense. Goff running Ben Johnson's system with this collection of weapons is one of the more dangerous quarterback-to-weapons matches in the NFC, and the honest assessment that this offense can be the best in the league if the offensive line holds up is not hyperbole. It is a conditional statement where the condition is specific and the outcome, if that condition is met, is genuinely extraordinary. The CBS Sports Top 100 picture with 6 Lions making the list is the roster depth story that deserves examination beyond the simple count. Penei Sewell at number 6 is the most unambiguous placement on the entire list because Sewell is operating at a level that makes the most dominant tackle in all of football an entirely reasonable descriptor rather than an organizational talking point. His ability to control defensive ends so completely that they become non-factors in the pass rush equation and so physically in the run game that outside zone plays to his side consistently generate positive yardage is the foundation on which everything the Lions offense tries to build rests. Aiden Hutchinson at 14 is the placement that carries the most playoff implication. because Hutchinson at full health generating the kind of sack production that his talent suggests he is capable of transforms this Lions defense from good to genuinely feared. 17 or 18 sacks from Hutchinson would make him one of the 2 or 3 most valuable defensive players in the NFC, and would give the Lions a pass rush anchor that opposing offenses have to dedicate enormous resources to containing. Jahmyr Gibbs at 21 is the ranking that will look most conservative by the time the 2026 season concludes. And the prediction that he becomes the Offensive Player of the Year is not wishful thinking from a Lions homer. It is a genuine analytical projection based on what Gibbs has shown over the course of his young career and what happens to a running back of his profile when he is operating as the primary ball carrier rather than as part of a true committee. The departure of David Montgomery, who wanted the feature back role that his talent warranted on a team willing to give it to him, creates the space for Gibbs to take on the workload and the responsibility that his explosiveness and his receiving ability have always suggested he could handle at the highest level. Watch this number rise. Jack Campbell at 86 is the most interesting of the 6 placements because it suggests that the national evaluation community is beginning to catch up to what Lions fans who watch this defense every week have understood for the past year. Campbell is an exceptional linebacker who does not generate the kind of statistical highlights that drive national recognition, but whose processing speed, communication ability, and consistent performance in Brian Branch's defensive system contribute to this defense in ways that matter far more than the box score suggests. The observation that he is a riser is correct and will likely prove conservative. Now let us address the situation that is genuinely concerning and that requires honest engagement rather than dismissal. The Terrion Arnold legal situation creates a secondary vulnerability that the Lions need to address through the free agent market or through a trade, and the available options are not particularly inspiring at this stage of the offseason calendar. Every option being discussed carries some combination of age, injury history, and performance decline that explains why they remain available in late June rather than having been claimed months ago. That is simply the reality of the free agent market in late June, when every team has had months to evaluate the available talent, and the players who remain unsigned are the ones with legitimate questions attached to them. Trayvon Diggs as a cheap young option at 27 years old is the most interesting of the free agent candidates from a value standpoint, because the age is right and the upside if he can stay healthy and rediscover the form that made him a legitimate starting corner earlier in his career is genuine. The concern is that the performance decline over recent seasons is real and not entirely explained by injury, which means even a healthy Diggs might not solve the coverage problem the Lions are trying to address. Kenny Moore brings exactly what his description suggests: veteran experience and scheme understanding at a cost that reflects his status as a player entering the back 9 of his career. The Lions secondary needs experience given the youth elsewhere in the group, and Moore's presence as a stabilizing veteran voice and a functional contributor in specific packages is worth the modest investment even if he is not going to be a starter who solves the problem by himself. Russell Douglas as a 9-year veteran who Mike Payton specifically highlighted is the option that reflects organizational intelligence about what you are actually looking for at this point in the roster construction process. You are not looking for a starter who transforms the secondary. You are looking for a player who can contribute in a rotation, who knows what he is doing and where he is supposed to be, and who does not create additional problems on top of the ones you are already trying to manage. Douglas fits that profile, and the phone call is worth making. The Denzel Ward trade scenario is the option that makes the most football sense and the least organizational sense simultaneously. Ward at 29 years old, even with the acknowledged slight decline from his best seasons, is a dramatically better option than anything available in free agency, and would give the Lions a legitimate starting corner alongside DJ Reed that transforms the secondary from a liability into at least a functional unit. The obstacle is straightforward. The Cleveland Browns are not going to trade a young established corner to a division non-rival competitor when they are trying to rebuild their own competitive standing, and the return they would require would almost certainly exceed what the Lions are willing to offer for a player at his stage of career. But as a purely football argument divorced from organizational reality, Ward alongside Reed is significantly more appealing than any free agent combination the Lions are likely to assemble. The Riley Moss from Denver conversation is the one that requires the most careful calibration of expectations, because Moss is genuinely talented and the cap situation in Denver makes him an interesting trade candidate in the abstract. But the Broncos are trying to win a Super Bowl right now, not rebuild, and trading a young corner who is still on a cost-control deal does not align with what an organization trying to compete for a championship should be doing, regardless of how crowded their depth chart is at the position. The Lions should absolutely make the exploratory call, understand what the asking price is, and evaluate whether the fit justifies the cost. The likelihood of a deal getting done is low but not zero. Isaiah Pacheco embracing his complementary role alongside Gibbs is the running back room story that should make Lions fans feel genuinely good about the situation David Montgomery's departure created. Pacheco is a player whose body has taken an enormous amount of physical punishment over the course of his career, and the opportunity to contribute meaningfully without carrying the full load of a feature back role is genuinely good for both his health and his professional longevity. The analogy of Shadow rather than Sonic is perfect in capturing what the Lions need from this pairing. Gibbs as the primary explosive threat who defenses have to game plan around, Pacheco as the reliable and physical complementary option who keeps the defense honest in different ways and who absorbs carries that would otherwise add to Gibbs's workload. Montgomery wanted the starring role, and the Texans are giving it to him, which is exactly right for everyone involved. Pacheco wanting the complementary role is equally right for everyone involved. The offensive line question is the one that the weapons ranking implicitly and the honest self-assessment explicitly identifies as the variable that determines whether this offense reaches its ceiling or falls short of it. Having the best weapons in the NFL and a quarterback who distributes the football effectively means nothing if the protection collapses and Goff is running for his life on every other snap. Sewell is the anchor that gives everything to his side reliability. The interior needs the consistency and the health that it has sometimes lacked, and the right side of the line needs to perform well enough that opposing pass rushers do not spend the entire game trying to make Sewell irrelevant by attacking the other side. The excitement is justified. The concern about the secondary is legitimate. And the Lions heading into 2026 with the best weapons in professional football and genuine questions about whether the defense can be good enough to make those weapons relevant in January.
Quieter rookie, which I appreciate. You know, it's nice to have someone who
stands.
you know he's about the work, and you know
Drop your Jammer Gibbs
you know
rushing
what
yards
he's going to come out and do every day. You know, so I really appreciate the way he's worked.
Tell us which free
DJ,
agent
obviously
or
a
trade
vet.
option you
He's
want
been
the
great.
Lions
We've been
to
trying to build the
pursue to
connection.
address
You
the
got to,
secondary.
as edge rushers,
And
you
let
got to
us
feel
know
each other
your
out a little
honest
bit and
excitement
see
level
what the
from 1
vibe
to
is.
100
And it's
for
been great.
2026 Lions football. Smash
Say it
that
again.
like button, subscribe if you have not
bad.
already.
No,
and
I
we will
tell you
see
what, the
for
Lions were
next
starting to
one.
become the, or
Lions
Michigan
Nation,
starting to become the
let us
pathway
go.
to the Lions.
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.